in the Room Consulting, and my digital BFF, Kylie Mowbray Allen from Hello Media. How are you, Kylie?
Great.
It's so nice to see you. We missed you last week.
It is very nice to see you too. And I really missed you as well, but I just loved what you did. I just thought that was fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
And I can't even remember if I was able to get you a message saying I can't be here, but you just went for it. Do you know, I still don't have phone service working.
Goodness gracious, isn't it crazy? Well, my mum only got power back yesterday. We bought them a generator though to make sure that we can at least connect a generator to the house from now on. So if the power does go out, that will kick back in, because they're on a farm, so they don't even, their toilets are flushed by power, so they couldn't even flush their toilets. So like, it was a bit crazy.
That is intense. And so let me just let everyone know who are listening later on the podcast or on YouTube and a little unsure of the context of what we're talking about, is that, and I don't even know why I'm laughing, but probably because I'm delirious, that we've had a really intense 12 days, I think we're up to, maybe 13 days even. I'm not sure. Of a massive catastrophe happened on the Northern Rivers. It was before that, it was up in Queensland, and it came down. Now it's, all the way down to Sydney, but it's the worst disaster we've ever seen. It has wiped out, I can't even give you any stats, but thousands of homes. Many people thousands of people are displaced now. There's been evacuation centres set up all over the place. The army has come in to help. It's just been extraordinary. So Jenny and I today are talking about what's involved for your business when a catastrophe happens. And a couple of things I want to mention, and particularly just do a couple of shout outs, is that my brother, for example, has been affected. He's at South Golden Beach, so 20 minutes north of me. And so his whole car's written off, his motorbike's written off. The house is not habitable at the moment, but he's very lucky. He will be eventually able to move back in, but he has lost a lot of stuff. So so they've been staying with us, and every day he goes back there using my car and is trying to clean out, just absolute horrors. And what has been happening is just so glorious. So I have been getting up and making food for him to take out there and donate to people in the street, etc. But a couple of days ago, Mugu, who are based in Queensland, they're a really beautiful company that my daughter actually really, really loves their products, and very natural based products. And they just arrived in the street with a truck and said, here, we have all these products for you. So they have shampoos and conditioners and moisturizers and muzzy repellents and soaps and all these things. It was so beautiful.
So beautiful.
That was on Wednesday. And then yesterday, a truck arrived, and I've just had a moment of, can't remember who they are, but with bras and knickers. So all underwear. He just actually sent me the photo, so I'll just clarify who that is, because it's here we go. It's an organization called Support the Girls, creating change for vulnerable women and girls. And that says bras and knickers galore, all sizes. If the flood made a mess of your undies drawer, please come to Mullum and replenish with Support the Girls. So there'll be a Mullum today in the Mullum Neighbourhood Centre Friday, 10 to 4. But yesterday they were driving around donating, which is
so beautiful.
Absolutely extraordinary. So those are a couple of shout outs I wanted to give, but also I've put a number of posts on my personal page, and it's been amazing the number of people that have got in touch. So clients, friends, family, and have just been sending money, sending things. Like Let's Porty has just sent a massive amount of pet food so that we can donate it to the various places. It's been mind-blowing. It has been an incredible thing. As we were just discussing this morning, Jenny, Handicraft and Curtains, so Brenda, she's setting up a centre there called Chat and Sew, where people can come together, sew quilts to donate, etc. So she'll be the collection centre for that. So incredibly beautiful things coming out of it. But for you also, you've been affected by it with your mum just a little further south.
Yeah, so down in Baggetville, mum's in Baggetville, so halfway between kind of that Alstonville and Woodburn. And because of the location of her property, they had no power until yesterday. So they're on the Woodburn Exchange, not the Ballina Exchange. And so they had no power. So they weren't able to pretty much do anything at home. They had gas only, but they had no fresh food, and they were waterlogged. So they were landlocked, sorry. So the river to halfway up the mountain, they couldn't get out, they couldn't go anywhere. And so they had no one actually reach out to them. They were really quite surprised that because they're kind of in this small community and there's only a few of them, they didn't actually have anybody reach out about electricity, about water, no SES, because they couldn't get in. So they were kind of rallying in the streets, meeting their neighbors and collecting and connecting with each other that way during that first sort of 7 days where they couldn't get power. They were driving their cars around to charge the mobile phone so they could call me to say that they were safe. So it was pretty harrowing. But also I've got family who live in Lismore and they've lost everything. They've got themselves and their 5 pets, and that is it. They've lost their car, every possession that they own, everything in their house. And in terms of statistics, 2/3 of the houses in Lismore are now they're saying are now uninhabitable. So they will actually have to be demolished. So as an older city, an older town generally, to have 2/3 of those properties have to be demolished is going to completely change the face of the city. And because it begs that question is, how do we actually recover? How do the people who were in that home and do not have a home to go back to? My family's really lucky. They had some damage. They had some flooding in their house, in my sister's house, and in my sister's pottery shed where she has her business, that got damaged, but they're safe. Like, they still have their main house, they still have possessions, they still have their car. So they can kind of bounce back a little bit better. So we were very lucky and very blessed, but the number of people, as you said, who have been completely just, their homes, all their possessions, whether they own their home or whether you rent their home. In some respects, being a renter is almost worse, because if you're a renter in this environment, you literally don't have anywhere to go. At least if you own your home, there's an opportunity to rebuild that property, to have a space. So I think this is going to have a long-term effect, particularly Northern Rivers. I mean, Brisbane was bad enough, but we didn't get the same level of devastation as we've had in the Northern Rivers.
It's so completely sobering. And yesterday, what I try to do with my family that is staying at the end of each night before everyone goes to bed is, what are we grateful for today? What has happened today? Because it's very easy to get really bogged down with the horror of it. And yes. But one thing that came up for me yesterday, which was just a whole new element of horror, is that I was having a session with one of my clients who runs a organization in Lismore, and it's for women that have been sexually abused when they were children. Yep. So for a lot of women, they've forgotten about it. They've wiped it, they've literally blocked it. And so it comes up for them 20, 30, 40 years later. So she has this amazing space. She runs these incredible programs. And upstairs of that cottage is a space where people can go and stay also in times of, extreme need. So that entire venue got completely wiped out. That is not coming back. That is gone for good. So she's, obviously we've got a whole lot of stuff to be working through with her, and it's not going to be a problem. She's already got super proactive about different grants and things like that. So it's going to be fine. But what she said to me in terms of how she's trying to support women in general, and also there's a lot of women, and she said actually a lot of them in Lismore in domestic violence situations that have escaped from it, etc., is that they have been put into the evacuation centres where their perpetrators are.
Yeah.
And so a lot of women actually haven't gone to these centres because they're so frightened that is where those people are. So what she told me is that, I wrote down a couple of notes yesterday while we were talking, is that the stats are that it's 14 times more likely that women would die in a disaster like this, or any disaster in general. And so she said what they're looking for is psychologists, psychiatrists, children's specialists. That's the thing. So yes, of course, we need to be doing all the cleanup right now, but then it's those kind of services that are going to be so incredibly and desperately in need. But what's happening to those women right now? So there's just a whole lot of sobering stuff. Every day I'm hearing new things happening, new things unfolding, and stuff I never even thought about. And deeply disturbing, deeply worrying. I just also want to mention that for 24 hours after it all unfolded, we still had power, phone, internet, everything was still working. Not obviously for those that were being flooded, but I'm very lucky where we live. Our little village of Bangalore was fine. I mean, fine in terms of no houses were lost, no lives were lost. Yes, a lot of cars were, but our house did not get flooded, yet all the towns around us did. So we're surrounded by it. And so a lot of those were cut off straight away, but we weren't. We still had all those services, but only for 24 hours, because the gloriousness of Telstra and the contract that they put in place meant that they went with apparently the lowest government, or the government went for the lowest quote, which was only 24-hour-long batteries at the whatever sites. I can't even say all the right words, but anyway, that's why after 24 hours we lost phone and internet and everything. So we were 6 days without any internet, 6 days without even being able to call 000, because no phones are working at all. The only thing we had was radio. As you know, I told you that there was no petrol in the petrol stations. There's no food, there's no fresh produce, there's no anything in any of the shops. Of course, we can't use FPOS anyway. So unless you had cash, you were stuffed. The having no petrol thing was a really new experience for me. Like, definitely in the pandemic, we've had times of finding it hard to get some foods, but the no petrol, that was totally new. So you're really conscious of where you're driving in terms of going to help, because we were so limited with that. But I want to come back to this internet thing. For me, my entire business is 100% online. And I am one of trillions of people that is the case for. It is incredibly challenging to not even be able to reach out to people, because in the rest of the country, a lot of people just didn't even really know much of really what was going on. They saw was more, and that was about it. So getting messages out to anyone, even just to say we're safe, has been incredibly problematic and distressing. So luckily for me, Jenny and I have a messenger group with our 2 teams. And so I was able to every now and then get a text to Jenny. I never knew if she received them. I might receive a text message back 12 hours later, but I could tell it had been written earlier. So at most, I would just hope that a text would, I know that a lot of them didn't get through, but every now and then I could get a text through and I'd say, please can you message the team and say this, etc., etc. And then that was about it. That's all I could possibly do. And then I went to my niece, she volunteers every Saturday at a cat shelter above a vet. The vet, of course, got flooded out. So they lost their x-ray machines and all their things. But above is where they have the cat shelter. So I drove my niece there for that. And just around the corner was a company called Cogran Electrical. And they had a giant board up out the front and said free Wi-Fi, had the username, the password, because they're using satellite. So I sat there in my car for an hour, writing posts, writing all the things I needed to, which was really, really great. And then off I went. And then straight away I applied for Elon Musk's Starlink satellite. Apparently it's going to arrive this week. I'm pumped because—
Oh my God, really? Wow.
Yeah, it's not appropriate that we in 2022 cannot even call 000. We have no contact in the outside world when this goes on. It just shocked me. So it was about $1,000 to get it, and it's going to be $139 a month. I'm like, hello, yes, I need you. And that way then, if this happens again, or when it happens again, I'm then able to share my internet with people, which will feel really, really good. So there has been a lot going on behind the scenes with just extraordinary people doing amazing things. But yeah, I really feel like that lack of internet, that lack of any kind of communication is not only very devastating for businesses, but really devastating in general for a lot of people. So me being able to reach out to you was important. So putting things in place so that we can prepare for next time, like how are we going to contact people? What are we going to do, etc. Those things are really important.
Yeah. And it's interesting when you talk about things like satellite, like internet. I mean, my mum's farm, because of the location they're at, because of the way that regional Australia works when it comes to things like satellite and internet and rolling out of lines, they, you know, literally their houses to the right of them have phenomenal fast internet and phenomenal fast service and can get all the bells and whistles. But her street, because it's on the old exchange, it doesn't get any of those things. So they're on quite slow internet. They have really limited access to all the things. So things like Starlink, which I didn't even know existed, which I'm now going to tell her about, is phenomenal because it's actually recognizing there's a whole lot of gaps in it, particularly in the regional Australia. Like we're lucky. I live in Brisbane. We have, you know, access. We didn't lose power. And if we had, we would have got it back pretty quickly because of, you know, the location that we're at. And they, you know, they've got enough people in this region to kind of, you know, recover if we need to. But in the regions, it's so much harder, and running a business in the regions is really even more difficult because of the gaps and because of the lack of infrastructure that does exist in regional Australia. And it is amazing to think that in 2022, we have, you know, talent in Estonia. I remember going to Estonia 4 years ago, and they had free Wi-Fi pretty much everywhere around the country when we were in the city, sorry. And I was like, oh my God, that, you know, I say to someone, is there internet here? Is there Wi-Fi? And they're like, of course it is. It's talent. Like they couldn't even believe that, because for them, internet is just a given. It's like a, you know, standard thing. Yet here's a country like Australia, which is considered to be one of the wealthiest countries in Australia, and we can't even manage to get really good internet into our regional centres. And there are still black spots on roads that are, you know, major thoroughfares, and you still have to go through massive black spots. So I'm amazed at the fact that we still have that gap in our market in this day. And it does, you know, beg the question about whose responsibility is it to fix those things and to help it? Is it about, you know, having, I guess this is the challenge of commercialization, isn't it? Back in the day when it was, you know, Telstra or Auspost was owned by the government, their job was to serve the community first. It wasn't about the profit first. And now they're all privately owned, so therefore it becomes about profit. It doesn't become about service. And it really does beg the question about what is the point of the business, particularly in the people who are listening today. Most of our clients are business owners, small, medium, and some large business owners. And I think we come together because our purpose is about serving community first and serving our clients first. And we work out the other stuff later. And because we do well at that first piece, you know, we have clients who come to us, we make a profit, we're a viable business because we put our heart and our intention in the right place to start with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to mention that there are parts, I was going to say the Northern Rivers where I am, but I'm sure all over Australia and regional Australia where they don't have phone connection on a good day. So literally in my tiny little town of Bangalore, there are parts of Bangalore that don't get phone reception. And my brother at South Golden, when I want to chat with him on a normal day, not a after flood day, he has to go up to his front gate.
Yeah, my mum is the same.
Not okay. And many of us, I haven't had a home phone for years and years and years. So and I don't need one, but hello, you know, I do when stuff goes down. But I think the fact that no one could call 000, and still right now, there's parts of the Northern Rivers that still can't. So that's not okay. It's absolutely unacceptable and deeply worrying, really. So what happens with your business when it's affected in this way? Obviously, we know businesses have been completely wiped out. We know businesses that have suffered massively, but they've had to get volunteers in to help them clean out and, you know, come back from it. They've done different things with, oh goodness me, we've just had someone in the chat say home phones weren't working either, as they now operate through the NBN. I actually didn't know that. There you go. So no, I'm not going to be getting a home phone back again because clearly that wasn't working. So yes to my satellite coming soon. Oh, quickly a mention on that. The satellite, I've been waiting for quite a few years and watching what's going on with that. So it's only just recently become available to our area. And apparently for now, it's not going to be available in cities. It's only going to be in regional areas that are having troubles, that have always predominantly had troubles with internet. So definitely for your mum, Jenny, that's a good option.
I'm 100% going to have that conversation with her after this. To your point, though,
I don't think it's too expensive for what you're actually getting. I think that's something a little bit magic. Yeah,
we're doing our crazy. I am going to have to do that. Sorry about the microphone, people. So I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Apologies, I may have gone down quietly. We'll just edit that out later.
Very good.
the conversation is interesting around how do you manage your business in this environment. And I think there's two things that come to mind when I think this. What are the key aspects we talk about when we do marketing or engagement, or, you know, whether it's social media, digital marketing, or just client engagement and thinking about our clients, is if your business is designed to serve and build a community and create loyal customers, moments like this is when your loyal customers stand back and go, it's okay, we'll be here when you're ready. And I think this is there's so many businesses that I've seen who, you know, something will happen to them and they try and recover after a disaster and they can't recover, and customers don't go back to them and they blame the disaster. And I'm going to sound a little bit harsh here, right? They blame the disaster for the fact, well, we were wiped out because this happened. But the reality is they were probably already on their way out before the disaster happened, because if their customers don't come back to them after, if they weren't loyal beforehand. And I think you've got so many amazing businesses who are part of your PP, the Passionate Purposeful Women group, who are all about serving customers. They engage with their clients and customers. They talk to them regularly. They engage with them on social media and through email marketing, and also when they're actually in their stores. And so when they're saying, look, we've had this disaster, we need some help to recover, but, you know, come and see our other stores, or you can buy online, or you can try and still support us. People will do that because they're loyal to that individual. They're there to support, and they know that that individual is providing a service to the community first, and that they'll come back and support. So I think there's a really important question to say is how you run your business on a daily basis, how you engage with community, how you build loyal customers, how you build relationships with your customers is really important in everyday life, not just in disasters. And because that allows you to recover from situations like this.
Yeah, I definitely agree. So when we think about people receiving support, if you're a good human and you run a good business and you're generous and abundant and all those things, then yes, you're going to attract the right kind of support to you, the right kind of help, and people understanding and realizing. So I've suggested, in terms of people with online stores, I know that you've lost all your stock or whatever, but don't close that store. If you keep that open and you say to people, you know, on your homepage, hey, we can't be sending any orders out to you for maybe a month, maybe more. But if you want to place an order and support us, knowing that it won't be coming out for quite some time, then we'd really appreciate that. Yeah. So making sure that you're constantly being honest, constantly being upfront, really transparent, posting on your socials. I know you can't, I mean, I couldn't, for example, for quite some time, but my team was. But even just finding a way to get something out there to let people know what's happening is important. But I'll tell you one thing that really has irked me, and I know that it's only affecting a small part of the entire country, but being aware of what's going on is so important, because honestly, once we got that internet back and I went onto Facebook, I lasted 5 minutes and then I was gone, because the overwhelming amount of promotions from people, and I'm talking not far up the road, like Gold Coast and stuff, and hammering things, and it's like, do you not know what's actually going on out there? And also the businesses now that send you text messages regularly, I find that super frustrating. But you know, even some of those sending messages through to me that are just automated, make sure you're getting this, make sure you're doing that. And another company reached out to me, you're coming to our conference, we're trying to, you know, you haven't blah 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 blah, and I'm like, I'm in the midst of this horror scenario going on. What the hell? Like, really, it turned me off their companies and their businesses. So being sold to, being promoted to, actually, I know that it's not affecting a lot of people. So you do you. But when it was coming at me, it was too much. I just felt like, no. What about putting out a post and say, hey, we just want you to know our hearts are with you all down there, or out there, or up there, or whatever. And we're thinking of you guys. How about just pausing for one moment and, you know, just showing some compassion? I think it's a really important thing at this time.
I mean, we're talking about how to manage your business through disaster. And the conversation was originally going to be around the companies who are having to recover at the moment. And those with, you know, who have set their businesses up, who, you know, insurance or people will come and help, and you'll be able to get your stock back, or at least recover to some part, and you won't be able to. Oh, that's awesome. So yeah, had someone, so I love that idea about pre-ordering. So if you are listening to this and you do want to support somebody, doing a pre-order is a really good way to provide cash flow to that company to help them recover and help them do this piece, because insurance is going to take some time. Like, I've got a hole in my ceiling. It's going to be there for probably a month. Like, that's how it affected us, is that, and we're lucky that we have a large house that particular room doesn't need to be used on a daily basis, but we have this giant hole in our ceiling. So we're having a minor issue of like, but that's going to take a month to fix. And businesses who have lost 75, 100% of their stock, who've got waterlogged buildings, who have to either demolish or completely rebuild, that takes time, and it takes funds before the insurance company is going to pay for it. So sometimes having that pre-ordering and thinking about that is really important. But there's an important point that I want to stress that you just made, Kylie, about all the businesses that serve the region, so whether it's Southeast Queensland or Northern Rivers, is actually when you're taking a moment to do your marketing verse or your email outs or your whatever it is have a look and say, well, how appropriate is this to this particular region? I mean, and this is to any disaster and anything that's happening, globally at the moment. We've got issues in Western Australia. They finally opened their borders, and not surprisingly, they're having their rise of COVID pandemic now, because they had locked down for so long, they were immune. They were kind of blocked and kind of sheltered. And now that they've actually got their borders open, they're starting to see what we saw over the last year. So being compassionate and aware of that, and aware of what is happening around your market, whether that's local market, national market, or indeed a global market, is really important as a business owner, to not just look down, to look up and see what else is happening in the world and respond to that, rather than just, doing business as usual and on autopilot, which so many people are.
I saw this morning, a flood of newsletters that I get every single day, and I decide to open them according to their subject line. And one of them, who's actually a friend and colleague in Brisbane, it was like, hey, time is running out, jump on my year-long program or whatever. And it's like, wow, that's just a mass mail out. But how about you change that subject line to, hey, sending out love to all the people around the world who are affected by stuff? Because the horror going on in the Ukraine, the WA, what's happening there, what's happening in New Zealand, like there's stuff all over. So maybe, and I know we're all acutely aware that this has been a tough year so far. So maybe just a little bit of gentleness, I think, is really important. And I think it's not necessarily the time where you have to discount things and whatever, but finding ways to make things a little bit easier. It might be, I was talking with a client yesterday, and she was like, how about we do a thing where we give away a free soap with every order, that's coming from that region, or, I just think there's just so many ways that people can help and support. And if you can't financially, then just opening up your space. So Sue Walker, who owns Stewart's Menswear in Mullumbimby, she's here in the room with us today. She, I was chatting with her yesterday in our group coaching, and one of our other clients, Lemon Myrtle Fragrances, who's from Sydney, they were saying, we've got a lot of stuff that we would like to donate, but where and how and all of that. So Sue said, send it up to me and I will be the collection point, and people can just come in and take away these beautiful products that they need. It's not unnecessary stuff. It's really important. Soap, cleansers, all that kind of stuff. So what a beautiful thing. So it's not going to be a hard thing for Sue. Yes, she's got to find some space, but it's actually just a beautiful and generous thing to do. It's a beautiful and generous thing Lemon Myrtle Fragrances are doing. It's a beautiful and generous thing that Handicrafts and Curtains, and opening up a space for chat and sew. So we can all do a little bit and a little bit of something. Maureen, who we've had on here before, chatting with us about inclusion and things in your business, she's been volunteering at Murwillumbah, what's it called, resource center or whatever. She's donated, hundreds and hundreds of dollars and delivered them to my place for me to distribute and things. So people are doing amazing things. And I think it's important to let people know what you're doing as well. I really do. And post about it, because it inspires others to do so as well.
That's a really interesting point, because often when I do things, I don't like to promote it. And I just like to do stuff and it happens, and I don't like to be that promotion. But it is a really good point to say that when you start to share and talk about what you're doing, it does inspire and create that kind of community to say, well, other people are doing it. And it does kind of not so much put pressure, but it does actually shout out to people and say, hey, what can you do? It doesn't have to be big. It doesn't have to be a big effort, but it just needs to be something. So I think that's it's probably a good idea to start kind of promoting and talking about what that looks like.
You said, I bought a generator for my mum. Immediately, my brain went to, who could I buy a generator for? Who needs a generator? Straight away. And I know we've got a massive shortage of them here right now.
Yeah.
But, a generator, yes, that's a lot more money. But how about a $10 donation? That's 2 packets of pads, sanitary pads. There's so many tiny and big ways that people can help. It doesn't need to be, I don't have a spare $100 to donate. Literally donate $10. That's all it needs to take. And if everyone donated $10, what a difference that would make.
100%. And I think, and it's about doing what you can do for you. So it might be if you're in the service industry and you're saying that, things like psychologists, psychiatrists, child youth workers, people who can provide some counseling and some mental health support for people, even if you can jump on the phone for an hour and reach out and have a conversation with someone, or donate a day of your time just to check in to make sure people are okay. But not just now. I also want to talk about the fact that this is an ongoing thing. This is not going to be something that's going to be solved in the next week or the next month, like other issues that we've had. It's actually coming back in a month's time. And I think, and I'm going to challenge you and I to do that. In a month's time, we're going to check in and see how people are. And in a month's time after that, and in 3 months after that, because that's when the work happens. It's not so much now where we're going through the challenge. It's actually how we're responding and how well we bounce forward after. And I think that's when I was talking last week in my little chat without you feeling very lonely on my own. That was the thing, is it's not about us saying we're going to bounce back. We're not going to be behind where we were today or yesterday or before this disaster. We want to actually make sure people can move forward from it. And so whether that's physically, whether that's mentally, whether that's through their business, whether that's revenue, this is a little slump, but we're going to actually bounce forward from it. And I think that's what all this support enables us to do. It's looking down the track of how we're supporting, not just what you can do today.
Absolutely. And you know what, I think even if we remove any kind of monetary expenditure at all from anyone, even though Sue just reminded me of that Maureen Shelley had put out there, how about donating $10 to a pharmacy as a pay it forward, because there's so many people that can't pick up their medication and whatever. Yep. But before I talk about that other thing, I just want to mention just my brother as an example. So firstly, he doesn't want to receive any help because he feels like so many people are so much worse off what happened. But straight away, he needed to find $1,000 for the excess for his vehicle because the insurance company won't start the claim on his vehicle until they've received that. That's bizarre to me because they're going to pay him out the whole money for the insurance of the car because it's written off, but they can't do that till he's paid the $1,000. That surprises me at a time like this. There'd be a lot of people out there that don't actually have that. The second thing is they haven't even collected his car yet. So I was speaking with someone that is an insurance assessor. It's the partner of one of my clients. And she said the problem was even just the processing of that, because that in itself is taking way longer than it should have. But not only that, the assessors have got nowhere to stay. So when they fly in from the cities to come and assess all the vehicles, there's nowhere for them to be. So then what about the removal of those vehicles? That's a massively problematic thing too. So that's just his car alone. So if we think about he then doesn't have a vehicle to then go and buy all of the building supplies he needs to repair his house. And so unfortunately for him, or fortunately, I'm not sure which way to look at it, he actually sold his house and settlements in a few weeks. So he has to, for that sale to continue going through, that house has to be back to the state that it was when they bought it. So he has flooring to replace, walls to replace, cabinetry replace, like it's a massive job. And so he's got to be able to get all that stuff. But even if he had the vehicle to go there and buy the stuff, where's he going to buy it from? Because there's such a shortage of supplies. And we've had that through the pandemic anyway. The problem was already going on. So all tradies in the region, well, not all, but many have had their vehicles wiped out. They can't it's literally a minefield of horror when you look at all the different aspects of it. And that's just one person I'm giving you the example of.
Yeah.
But also then trying to buy a new car, like in Lismore, all those car yards got wiped out. They lost every car. So where do we even go to buy a car? And how many thousands of people need to replace their car? But also, how many people didn't even have insurance? So on so many levels, it is just mind-blowing. So hence a little reminder about the little pharmacy thing. $10 to a pharmacy is a pay it forward. And to say when someone needs, that to me just seems like a really beautiful idea. But about that business thing, my suggestion was going to be, even if you don't want to spend $1 anywhere, and how can you actually support? Well, you can put up a post on your socials and you can say, it depends on what you specialize in. But for example, how about you put up a post all about, it's really important to clean mold with vinegar, not with bleach. These are the reasons why. Or, maybe you're a psychologist or a counselor or a life coach. How about you put some tips up for, caring for people or self-care in these times? There's so many ways that people can help that doesn't even have to involve money. So, and you might even be in Melbourne. You're so far removed from this, but start putting up some things to show how people can support other people in times like this. So yeah, I think that's a challenge that I'll put out to you all today is, what can you put on your socials today that's going to show your support? Probably that's the main one. So Jenny, how will we summarize what we can do? We can send product, we can give discounts, we can reach out, we can share posts about how to support, what kind of things people can do, whether it's practical, in terms of cleaning, whether it's, whatever it is, there's lots of things. What do you think that we can do as a summary there?
I think also as a business owner, it's actually about communicating with your clients, not just where the situation you are now, but what's coming for your business. Let them know that you're still there and that while you can't service them or help them now with their needs, you will be coming back. So I think it's sharing your story with them as a business owner. So if you're not going to be doing the supporting from an external into the areas who've been affected, as a business owner, it's been affected, take a moment, because if you're focusing on what your future is for your business as well, that's going to help your mental health and your recovery. So rather than just being in the moment, take 5 minutes a day to go, okay, this is crap today. We are in literally the muck, but we know that in 3 months' time, we'll be back to where we were. In fact, we'll be ahead. And so let your clients know that. And so my advice is not about people to support the businesses, but the actual businesses themselves to try and take 3, 4, 5 minutes a day just to reflect on the fact that you're okay, your physical person's okay, your family's okay, you may still have your structure of your business, but there is a future coming up for you. So don't just focus on the disaster, focus on, yes, this is where we are today, but it's not what's going to come in the next few months. So if you do that for yourselves, that's going to help your own personal mental health recovery, and also the environment that you're in and creating for yourself. So that to me, I think is really important.
I totally agree. And like what my family are doing, maybe adopt that one also, where at the end of each night you say what you're grateful for, something that's come out of all this. And also we've been sharing a feel-good story that we've heard about, a cow that was rescued that was 100 kilometers swept away. There's been some incredible things. So yes, we can share the horror of it all, but actually sharing something at the end of the conversation that leaves you feeling a little bit better is really important. And same for business. So if you got wiped out in your business, what are you going to do to come back from it? But each night or whatever, thinking of what was actually really good about that. Well, it gave me a chance to take stock and clear some stuff. I don't know. You've got to find something, don't you? That's a positive.
I was gonna do this in about a month, but given that we're talking about today, so any of the businesses in Northern Rivers who we talk to with PPP or who have seen this, who want some support in terms of how to manage their business, I'm off. My coaching services will be free for you guys. We'll do 1 or 2 sessions for you to help you recover. So if you want to take advantage of that when you're ready, you may not want to do it now. You may want to come to us in a month. Just reach out to us through Elephant in the Room on our socials, and we're happy to here to support you, to provide you some guidance or some advice, even directing you to where there's some grants that are available to help you do your recovery and your rebuild. We're happy to offer our services for the next 3 months for businesses who have been affected by the floods.
You're so beautiful, Jenny. You are such a good human. My goodness. I hope everyone takes you up on that offer, because
I do too, because I would love that. It's the way I can give back, because it's the area that I know. It's what I know I can do. And if it's the next 3 months, if you need help, reach out.
That's so awesome. And I know we've got a topic already set for next week, but how about the week after, which is probably better timing anyway? We talk about grants.
Yes. There's lots of good ones out at the moment.
Yeah, and it's a really complicated process for a lot of us. And for people like you, it's just a really you've got a clear head around that topic. And you've applied
pretty much
and all of that. So
can I just finish on one thing? For anybody who does have incident, you may not have realized, please make sure if you have been affected by the disaster, go to either New South Wales Gov or Services Australia and make sure you apply for the funding grant. It's only it's $1,000 at the moment for every adult in your home, $400 for every child under the age of 16 who's not currently receiving a payment, but they will pay that within 24 hours. So if you haven't got cash flow, you can actually apply for that and get that within 24 hours.
It took 10 days for my brother to get his. He was able to apply for it in that window before we lost internet. He got to our place, I told him about it, and then boom, out he applied. And 10 days later is when he got it. That just blew my mind.
Well, in the last 3 days here, they've changed that. So it's been between 48 and 24 hours. You get that in your account now.
Well, that is good. But how's this? They've just announced 2 more of those $1,000 payments, but not for the Byron Shire. So that's pretty mind blowing, isn't it? Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So the first payment is Byron Shire, but the extra payments are not.
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ones, yeah, because there's the New South Wales government have ones, and then there's the federal government one. So you may be eligible for both. But also there's New South Wales grants. There's also a business grant, flood recovery, in addition to the individual. So you can apply as an individual for the Services Australia, but you can also apply for this small business grant. So that's if you own a business and need it. And I'm just having a look while I'm talking it. It's potentially New South Wales businesses. I'll read this out because I think it's really important for anyone listening. So small businesses and not-for-profit organisations suffering direct damage as a result can be eligible up for $50,000 to help pay for cleanup costs and reinstatement of your operations. You need to apply. So the sooner you apply, the better. That's available on the New South Wales Gov. I'm going to add this into the chat today. And
let's switch our topics then, Jenny. Let's do the grants next week.
Yes, actually, let's
and also not just about what's available, but also how to go about it and how to write a really good grant so that you can have best chance of getting it.
Yeah.
So we can talk obviously about recovery grants, but also other grants that you might want to be applying for.
100%.
Because this
definitely. That sounds like a good topic.
Thank you. So Jenny, with your beautiful offer, how can people get in touch with you?
So at Elephant in the Room AU on Insta and Insta and Facebook are the best ones for me. Otherwise, you can find us on our website, EITRconsulting.com.
Beautiful.
And how about you, Kylie?
Tell me first though, how can people reach out to you for your free coaching?
Just all you need to do is message us on one of our socials. Let us know who you are, and then we'll send you a link, and you can book in a chat if you've got access to internet. Otherwise, we will connect with you. So no application needed. You just need to reach out to us on one of our socials, and we will book in some time to chat to you.
Beautiful. And I'm going to offer the same thing. Thanks, Jenny. That's a great idea. And how about we put out to other coaches out there? What can you offer? What can you offer to people to help them get some clarity about where they need to head? So you can find me at hellomedia.team on all the different places, platforms, and also on the website. So yeah, thank you so much all for joining us. Kylie from Hello Media, Jenny from Elephant in the Room Consulting. We'll see you next week to talk about grants. And remember that if you join us live on the Zoom, we stop the recording straight afterwards, stop the live stream, and then we jump into some actual coaching for free from both Jenny and I. So we'll do that right now. We'll turn it all off. I saw a little message come through from Sophia, who's watching on Facebook. So hi, Sophia. Thanks. Hope you can jump in and join us in Zoom. So thanks, everyone. Great to see you all. And we'll be catching you soon. Thank you.
Bye.